Hi, I am Beth Stenz, certified financial planner and NFLPA registered player financial advisor, and this is her table.
Now you see her.
You are magnificent.
Welcome to Her Table, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the badass women who are redefining the game. Join hosts Kate Foley and Megan Martinez as they unlock the secrets of success from the brightest female pioneers in the industry.
Welcome back for another episode of Her Table. We are so excited to have Beth Stenz on all the way from Denver, Colorado. Y'all, she is one of 20 female registered player financial advisors for the NFLPA. One of 20. I mean, we are getting royalty here, Megan. This is fantastic.
I'm so excited to have her on. She is a life coach. She's a financial advisor. She clearly wears a lot of hats. She represents players in the NFL. She represents coaches. And she really just teaches them how to navigate their life. So we're really excited to have her on.
I know. I think the financial side, money is always interesting. Everybody wants to learn about the money and how do they get to spend it. And I think Beth's probably going to tell us how she gets them to save it.
Yes.
She is also the president of the Buffalo Bells from Colorado University, which is all about including women as they learn and understand sports. I can't wait to have her on Her Table and tell us where we can all have a little bit more financial stability and get into the lifestyle of the rich and famous. We're so excited to have you on the show. Like we have the money lady on today, everybody.
Yes.
She's either somebody's best friend or not their best friend, depending upon her answer, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, can you give us some advice? Megan and I need to know how to
Seriously.
Retire in like 5 years. So how are we?
Yes, please.
I love that. That's a great goal.
Yeah, if only. Dreams, right? Right, Megan? Dreams.
Oh, yeah, dreams, for sure. Well, Beth, let's get this going. So can you kind of go over what you do as a financial advisor?
Yes. I mean, that is a very loaded question. I'll try to keep it simple. I think the best way to explain what I do is I just try to manage people's money in a way that improves their life. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And it's really just getting to know who that person is beyond the numbers and really learning what makes them tick. What's their philosophy, meaning why do they make the money decisions they make? What was their first memory with money? And how does that impact how they are here as an adult and how they spend, how they save, what's important to them? There's so much that goes into it. So I feel like I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a life coach, and then I am a psychologist. I am a best friend. I can be the person we have the hard conversations with. I can be the no guy. So for a lot of my player clients, I'm happy to tell them, hey, if people are hitting you up for a handout and you're not comfortable having that conversation, give them my phone number and I will have it on your behalf because this doesn't fit into your long-term goal and it's okay to say no and have some boundaries. So
I think that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people, I work with athletes too. And so it's always interesting to watch when they have financial success, the responsibility that they inherently feel to take care of everyone else, even though their success is based on their dreams, their goals, their sacrifice. Everyone sometimes feels like they need to benefit from it. How is that for you, kind of being a woman in that space? And it's probably really hard conversations that you get to have sometimes.
Yeah, I think being a woman can sometimes work to your advantage because I feel like we are really intuitive. We're really good at, I think, kind of reading the room, so to speak, and being able to deliver messages in maybe a softer way. I mean, I can be firm when I need to be firm, but I think when you can make it relatable and more non-threatening, it's appreciated. But we have player clients who have, family, friends, former Little League coaches that want a handout. Hey, I helped pay your Little League dues for when you were 8 till when you were 12, like buy me a Mercedes. So you see a lot of different things.
I can't.
Yeah.
But it's so true. I mean, this is all it's you think it's not, but it's so true. How do you balance that for your clients to get their trust, right? Because I think ultimately you have to earn their trust for them to feel like you can have that hard conversation. How do you, what is your tactic to do that? Because that's not an easy thing to people are not going to mess around with their money.
They're not. I think education and empowering these young men and even sometimes adults to really understand money, how it helps them, how it can hinder them. I really come from a conservative place first, and I think I'm really transparent. So building trust is just doing what you say you're going to do. So I show up when I say I'm going to be there. If I told them I would do something, I get it done. And then there's a lot of just conversations that you don't have with anybody else. So it is a really intimate relationship to the extent that sometimes I'll know about a divorce before it's public, or I'll know about a struggle before it happens, or I'll know about something that needs to be insurable. I've had to deliver clients medical diagnoses in some cases. Like, we applied for an insurance policy and something came up in the underwriting. I had a young man who was 24 at the time and had stage 4 colon cancer. But we only uncovered that because of his medical underwriting. So he's still alive, he's in remission, but I mean, I think that escalates the caliber of the relationship and the closeness you have with your clients, because you're having those conversations that you don't have with anyone else in your life.
Yeah. I think something too, like, I was just, talking to a reporter yesterday at NFL Network, and we talk about how these young players coming out of the NFL, they're like maybe in their third year and they're trying to have a great year so they can get a big contract deal. And I don't think people realize how many people this athlete is providing for. Family, friends who ask so much out of them. And it's like, you don't even think about that because you're like, they're playing so hard and you're like, wow. I guess I'm curious, like, how are you able, like, do you ever have those hard conversations with the athletes or the coaches that you work with where you're like, hey, you can't be given to every single person that's been in your life? And like, do they respect that? Has there ever been a time where they don't, kind of go through that?
Yes, I've had both circumstances. And then it just becomes, okay, well, I will meet you where you are. And let's figure out, if you do want to help them, how can we do it in the most tax efficient way, for one, in a way that protects you. One of the worst things you can do is gift your mom a house, but your name is on the title, either to the vehicle, to the home, whatever it is, because what if you retire and then mom can't make those mortgage payments anymore? Who's on the hook for it? You are. So it's just really educating them on, okay, you are able to help people. Let's do it in a way that best honors and protects you, and then still gives back and shows appreciation to them. I even have some players who they know their spending habits, and we've had to have those come to Jesus talks, and they're like, direct deposit, every dime comes in with me. And then we have it in savings, and then I help them budget and, pay their bills, pay their agent dues and all that. So I have both ends of the spectrum.
So you didn't start out in finance, right? Like, you started out in communications. So can you kind of walk us through how you made that pivot? And was there a moment that you were like, hey, I'm going to pivot, or it just kind of fell into that space?
Yeah, I have the most random journey. And so I grew up working in football operations. Basically, I babysat for a coach. He was an assistant coach at CU at the time. He's now in the NFL, but he had 2 sons, and then they later had a daughter. But he would bring me with his wife. They would have me watch the kids at all the games. They took me out bowl trips. So I really got exposure being around all these student athletes and coaches. And then when I went to college, I went to CU Boulder. And he's like, no, ma'am, if you are not in class, you are in this football office so I can keep an eye on you. But that was the most supportive staff. They would have me in offensive meetings. I got to name a couple plays. I would help type out the plays on the Playmaker software we had. I would log film. I would give campus tours. So I think what really did me in was just being on the sidelines. There is no more energetic. I've never felt more alive in my life than I feel on the sidelines. Just the energy, the emotion, the passion, it's just the grit and the sweat, the hard work, everything. They leave it all on the field. And I was like, how do I bottle this up and do this forever? So I really initially wanted to be a scout or work in personnel. And then I really wanted to maybe be a sports reporter, be like an Aaron Andrews, Melanie Collins, and Carissa Thompson, any of them, right? I'd love them. And I would have loved to have done that. But in 2005, when I graduated, I applied to all 32 NFL teams looking for a personnel position, had 17 interviews. One guy, he did me such a solid. He Eagles. He goes, girl, you know about 90% more than everybody else applying for this, but I'm just going to shoot you straight. This is a box I have to check, and it's going to go to someone's nephew or son. And I was like, thank you for keeping it real, because I just thought, all right, I'm graduating, going to the NFL. The rest is history. That was not what happened.
So heartbreaking, but it's so true. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It is.
And that's why, like, just being a good person is important. Now, I feel like you've kind of made the hybrid, Beth. Like, you want to be like, you cannot be good at what you do if you cannot communicate with people, and you cannot deliver a message where they're going to hear it. And I think that's why, like, your communications background has been so impactful and important for you, because you're able to, like you said, meet them where they are. And it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you something you don't like to hear, but I'm going to let you hear it in a way that might be a little softer or whatever. And I think that's a hybrid that you've made, which I think is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, and it was just, how do I merge my two loves? Because I really am passionate about what I do in this lane, but I love the sports and entertainment industry, and they are a very underserved community. They're often taken advantage of. You have a lot of sudden wealth. This isn't the case for all of them, but some come from a 0% tax bracket to the top tax bracket. So you go from 0 to millionaire overnight. And I mean, that'd be hard. Look at lottery winners. The bulk of lottery winners spend the lottery, if they take a lump sum, within 18 months. So it's not exclusive to sports and entertainment. It's just human nature. So how do we help them? You know, how do I take my technical knowledge and help them apply it to make them leverage it off the field?
Yeah.
I also think too, like, some of these guys don't understand. Like, I mean, I've had clients, and I joke all the time that they don't know what taxes are. They know what their salary is.
Right.
And then they get their first paycheck in November, and they're like, where is it?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
no, you're in that 55% tax bracket, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
And it's like, but wait, well, do I get them back, or where do they go? And this isn't the dream that they had for themselves. It was to get the check for $1 million, not the $100,000. And they're like,
wait, what?
Yeah.
No one's communicated to me this is coming, and it's shocking and devastating to them sometimes.
It is. It's mind-blowing to them. And then you also have agent fees. You've got your league dues. There's so many other expenses that add up for them that they were never really aware of as part of the deal.
Right. Well, can you work with athletes, coaches, just a wide range of people, really. Can you go over maybe a success story that you've had working with an athlete? Maybe you started with one that was kind of maybe in their first year of their rookie contract deal or something like that. And then they go on and they, get this big contract deal. Like, do you have any crazy cool success stories that you've worked with athletes or coaches on?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of my favorites are just, I think from the coaching standpoint, it is such a small world, and they all get hired and fired all the time.
Right.
And they all end up working for each other.
I know.
So it's just, it's seeing their on the field success and just being so proud of them and excited for them. But then also watching them put kids through college debt-free. Or maybe it's buying their mom. I know it sounds materialistic, but buying their mom a comfortable place to live in the community she wanted to retire in. Or maybe it's, supporting their siblings that didn't have mom and dad around, and now they're able to really provide for them in a way that they were never provided for. And watching them really rediscover who they are off the field. So from an athlete standpoint, I think the most rewarding thing, and it's not really a success story per se, but I think it's helping them adapt the mindset that you're not retiring from the league, you're retiring to your next chapter. So what is your purpose, and who can I put you in front of to help you get there? So, okay, if you want to be in media, great. Like, here's who I know in the media. Let's get you some time with them. They can help build your expertise there. Maybe you want to sell real estate and you want to own rental real estate properties. Amazing. We've got former NFL players who are millionaire multi-times over just from their rental real estate properties, so that they can put them in touch and then learn from them. So I think it's just community and connection, and just watching them succeed as more than just the athlete.
Right. Yeah, we just
I feel like you're the
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Kate.
As the opposite of the stigma that comes with like you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're breaking barriers because there's such the stigma of like, be careful with your money. Everyone's going to take it from you. You know, all these bad things are going to happen. And to hear you say like, hey, I'm all about connecting my clients and connecting communities to advance for them, whatever that is so cool, because not everyone would be open to letting someone else give advice to your clients for fear of they might become more impactful than yourself, when really you're just connecting them to someone else to support your ultimate goal, which is that generational wealth.
100%. And I feel like one of my favorite quotes from the last NFLPA conference we were at was exposure breeds expansion. And so how can I leverage my network to help these guys? And then it always comes back to you. I'm such an abundance mentality. I mean, why have a scarcity mentality? We can all help each other. There's more than enough success for everyone to go around. And I want people to be better off for knowing me, whether it's financially, hopefully it is, but also, you know, maybe I connected them to their next maybe their future wife or their next dream job or another opportunity that leads to their ultimate destination. And I mean, that's what life is about.
Right. And we just had a guest, Scotty Upshaw, and he has his own podcast, Missing Curfew, but it was really cool.
Shout out Missing Curfew.
Shout out Missing Curfew. But he was in the league for like 14, 15 seasons. And he kind of touched on what it was like going from an athlete, and that's your whole entire life. You're a hockey player. You're dedicating your whole life to this, and then afterwards, and you retire, you're like, well, what do I do with my life now? I guess, can you kind of touch on that? What those athletes and how you kind of go over that with them and like make them feel like, hey, it's all right. We've got your next chapter of your life, you know, versus them kind of feeling like they have nothing left.
Right. Well, I love the Herm Edwards quote. This is an opportunity. This is not a career. We cannot plan when our career ends. So it's just really making sure that they are fully present in the moment and really doing everything they can to ensure longevity. I mean, 3 credited seasons is kind of the magic number for a lot of the good benefits to kick in. And a lot of, the second contract is the ultimate goal, second contracts and beyond. So it's definitely keeping a focus on that, but kind of generating from day one of meeting them, you're an athlete and like, what else are you? You're a father, you're a son, you are a businessman, you are all these other things. You are not just an athlete. And, we live in a culture where fame is very fickle and they are really propped up and looked upon as, okay, you're a legend while you're playing, but then they really struggle with the minute they retire or get hurt or something happens and they're like, I'm nobody. And so mental health, I think, is so important. I love that the NFLPA has really come a long ways with giving them mental health support. And hopefully I can be a good, trusted, safe space for them. If they are struggling, I can help direct them to that or put them in touch. Maybe they have a teammate that they trust or a friend, but just making sure that we're always checking in. How are you doing mentally? That's so important. But just letting them know the world is so much bigger than you're going to do so much more than play football.
Right.
I always say to some of my guys, I'm like, at the end of the day, we all get old, fat, and ugly, and this is over. Seriously, it's coming. So like, this is not a forever. It's like Armageddon is there, and there's that like sweet spot, but like, it's coming. So using your ability to impact and inspire, but also grow yourself. I think some of these guys and young athletes, young men and women, always get stuck. They get that like 3-year mark, and it's that like, okay, the super high from fame has started to wear off, and now I actually have to do shit. Now I actually have to like keep doing this. And like, is it maintainable? And the high they experienced really quickly in their career starts to plateau. And then they feel less than, and their paycheck might look different, right? Their financial situation might look different. And so the initial high and the adrenaline of being the superstar player, coach, whatever that may be, is starting to become normal. And then they're looking for the next thing because they're like, I don't like the way normal feels. I want to go back. And I think from a financial standpoint, how do you like, I have hard conversations, girl, where I'm like, this is not it. This is not it. But at the same time, from a financial perspective, like, they run out of money. Literally athletes all the time go broke. And I don't think that is anyone's responsibility but their own to find education in what does that look like from a healthy standpoint, because a lot of times these athletes don't come from a financially stable household, and then they have to create a financially stable household.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
And how do you say to them, like, you can't spend money? Like, let's just get to it. Because you're telling all these people, they're like, I want a new Range Rover. And you're like, yes, and. You're an athlete, and. Beth says, yes, and. Yes, and or no, and. It comes with more than just the yes or no.
Yeah. I think this is just true of human nature in general, that when you have buy-in and there's conviction behind the goal, you are able to work with them and they understand it better. So it's not just like Beth says, I can't spend it. It's reminding them, you said you wanted a beachfront property. You know, you said you wanted land in Temecula. You wanted to do the wine tasting thing all the time. Can we, like, how important is that? Do we still have that as our 10-year goal, or are we going to take away from that in order to, you know, buy the range, you know, spend 12 grand at Louis? What are we doing? So I think it's really being like, you can have it, but it's going to come at a cost. And how do we, and then I think a lot of it too, I tell them, really pay attention to your gut, because I think we really need to, as women especially, but I think it's true of all people, we really need to listen to our body and our gut, because we will expand or contract when something really feels right. So if a goal that they have set isn't really a goal that maybe they want, maybe it's something their dad wanted for them, or it's something they always promised their mom they would do, but deep down they're like, oh, that doesn't fully vibe with me, they're not going to ever honor that goal. So I think it's just really expectation setting and being like, all right, let's do some deeper work around what is really important to you.
Right. And I've had multiple conversations with, you know, people I work with, you know, if it's at NFL Network or, you know, past jobs that I've worked at. And we always talk, or not always, but we talk about how these young athletes, even in college, like, are they getting the education, like learning about the financial kind of aspects? And once you become pro, what you do with that. And I guess for you, have you seen a difference in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, like where they're teaching, you know, classes in college and they're trying to educate the young athletes that are, you know, going pro? Because I think that's such a vital, I mean, you can have your, you know, I don't know, arts class or something that, you know, you're
just taking art, Megan.
I know, I was like, I was about to say, like,
out loud, Megan.
I love art. I'm sorry, no dissing to art. But, like, you know, if you're an athlete and you're not really interested in art, I think it'd be way more meaningful for you to take a class that has to do with, you know, financial planning. So I guess, have you seen that, you know, transition in the last 5 to 10 years where young athletes are getting those, you know, classes that they can then later take on into their pro career?
I mean, I wish I could say it was required. It's not, and some universities do a much better job. What I think really kickstarted it was NIL, the name, image, likeness.
Right.
I've seen a lot more focus on making sure these young men and women have the resources and just kind of some basics of financials. And there are agencies I work with, even I'll do like a draft prep 101 with them to help get their draft class ready for, hey, here's what to expect before, during, and after you're drafted, or if you're not drafted, free agency. I'll also do university classes where I'll go to, in fact, I guest lecture tonight at a virtual class for CU, but just making sure they have those tools. But not all universities bring people like me in, and that's fine. What I love is there have been a couple great nonprofits that have come out, and they actually go around to NFL teams and to colleges, and they do just, here's the financial 101. So I've really been impressed with the strides, more so in the last 3 years, but really the last 5, I would say we've seen good progress there.
I always think it's interesting, especially on the, you know, the difference between like NFL and NBA, right? Is NFL is 3 years in college. NBA is just 1 year removed from high school, whatever that looks like. It, you know, and so they're 18 years old, right? And coming into insane amounts of money. And I always try and remind guys, and I wonder if you have this same conversation of, who you took counsel from before might not be the best person to give you counsel moving forward, because they might not have the experience or expertise where you're going. Like they were what you needed in that moment in time. Now, as you grow, so does your circle.
Yeah.
So do the people around you. They have to grow and challenge you. And sometimes, like, especially with these young guys, it's easy to be like, oh, this is just my people and they've always been around.
Right.
And it's like,
I trust them and I respect that.
Yes.
So
yeah, I respect it.
What keeps you here,
right? Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to say that because it's like, we looked out for you and we made sure you had this, that, the other. And when you talk about mental health, the struggle is, how do you not, someone's going to say to you, you don't believe in my dream, or I'm not good enough, or, oh, I helped you then, there, and that. And it's financially, like, that's hard because you want to help everybody, but at the same time, it's not necessarily their responsibility. And so for me, even in the NBA, it's counsel them on just be wise of what the initiative is for someone who's supporting you. And I love when I hear financial people say, if it's free, it's not. Because everyone, nothing's free. It comes with a cost to the other side. So when everyone's like, oh, I'll do this for you for free, or I'll do this or that, let's start this and you can be the face of this. It comes on the other side. How do you balance that mentally for yourself? Because I feel like you're in a similar role as me, as sometimes you're the bad person because your client needs you to be the bad person. Yep. It's not your bag to carry, but you just get to carry it today. How do you balance that?
Well, one of my favorite quotes ever is, good advice does not have to be expensive, but bad advice will cost you dearly no matter how much you pay for it. And so
say it again for the people in the back, because that is powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Just one more time, because I need to hear that again.
Yes. Good advice does not have to be expensive, but bad advice will cost you dearly no matter how much you pay for it, even if it's free, right? So
writing this down.
I think just navigating,
taking notes.
It's so true. It doesn't have to be expensive, but man, be careful, right? Mm-hmm. People don't know what they don't know. And what helps me the most is really working with their team. So I love bringing their agent in and just having the same narrative, that whether they're hearing it from you or they're hearing it from me, we're not good cop, bad cop. We are delivering the same message. Like, you're not going to be able to go to Kate and she'll say yes, and then Beth says no. Like, we are a team. I also love bringing in their CPA and other attorneys that we work with, just to make sure that we all have we're all telling them the exact same thing, and no one's telling them something that's not for the good of them overall.
Right. Well,
I always think it's weird. That circle gets big and small, Megan.
It does.
And you're in the circle and you're like, oh, this isn't going to go good today.
Yeah.
Well, was it like working as a woman, I feel like, in a male-dominated industry? I think just in sports in general. But kind of like, how do you kind of earn that respect? Because you are working with a lot of, male athletes or coaches. I know Kate and I talk about this all the time, because there are, so few women in this sports industry. What challenges did you have to face kind of earning that respect and kind of getting to where you are today?
I love that question. And I love hearing everyone's answer on your podcast, because there are a lot of similarities and common themes, but everyone seems to have a unique take, which I love to hear. So for me personally, and this is just for the NFL side, they're the only players association that has a registered financial advisor program. So there's 174 right now NFLPA registered player financial advisors. Fewer than 20 are female.
Wow.
So I think that alone says a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like a big mistake that I see women make in male-dominated industries is thinking that they need to conform and act or even dress like the men. I think it's actually the opposite. We are so different, and that's such a good thing. We are really good. And there's actually a study. One of my male clients sent it to me, and female investors actually do better, 40 basis points better, or 0.4% better than their male counterparts, because we really take the time to educate ourselves. We're disciplined. We don't let the emotions get the best of us. So I think for me, what helped me a lot was that I wanted to be considered an expert. So I did not ever want to lose a client because someone else out-credentialed me. So I went out, I got my certified financial planner designation. I got the certified private wealth advisor. I made sure that there would never be a competitive situation. If you didn't like me or you didn't want to work with me, that's one thing. But I didn't want to lose out on business because I wasn't equally as qualified as the male competition I was running into. Right. And I think I just kind of played into it. Like, you guys were speaking about it the other day, just about it's fun to dress like a woman, and it's fun to wear the Dunks or the Jordans. So I will, my first combine, I was walking around in Louboutins, had blisters all over my feet. Next combine, I was like, we are in Jordans and a blazer and jeans. And
yes,
we are. So I think it's really capitalizing on what makes us us, and that is valuable.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, it's they always say too, like, you're not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. And I think and honestly, like, I say that all the time, and it's hard even for me. I get wrapped up in it myself, even at this stage of my career, like, why not me? Yeah. But it's like, okay, then obviously the powers that be saw something that I didn't, and I have to just trust that and be sound in who I am. And I think, sometimes I feel like people look at women as they're not as smart. Like, I'll just say what it is. Like, it is like, you're not as smart, or she dresses this way because she's not as prepared, right? And I love hearing you say that you wanted to have the credentials to be able to sit, at the table. But I also think for me, it's the preparation that goes into that, right? And it's not as simple. And sometimes that's preparation by failure, because you're like, okay, didn't get that right.
Right.
Next, I'm going to carry that forward to the next opportunity, next client, so that I can, make myself better. When you walk in a room, do you ever feel like people just kind of like, huh? Like, I feel like sometimes I have it, they're not what you expected. Right. Yeah. And I think to be in a place where, Megan over at NFL Network, there's this stigma that comes around in women in sports. And then everyone's their own cup of tea, right? So you show up as you show up. But from a financial side, I think stuffy, buttoned up all the way to the top, like super boring, right? And I feel like you have a different energy. How do you play into that when you go into a room? Because they're probably used to 6 stuffy guys before you, and then your bright light comes in and they're like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I think we just all have to be really true to our authentic self, and that's what makes us stand out, and that will attract. I truly believe if you honor your true authentic self, which for me is a Jordan-loving tomboy who is obsessed with fashion. Like, I will rock the cutest outfit and be dressed to the nines, or I am in warm-ups at Jordans, and there's really no in between. Especially when I started, like, athleisure was not a thing, so I was in the men's warm-ups, right? Like, my Kobe jersey, whatever. But I think one of my favorite, I just feel like I keep saying one of my favorite quotes. There's so many good gems out there, but work until you no longer have to introduce yourself. So my goal is, how can I be a giver in every conversation I have? How can I leave a conversation knowing I added value or was able to help them in some way? If it's a new agent and they're looking for connections, okay, let me go introduce you to personnel over here at the Raiders, because I know your prospect, your client might be at the Raiders, right? So stuff like that. But just how am I able to be a giver in every interaction people have with me? Do they remember me for the right reasons, or was I an energy drain? I'm just trying to be really present and conscious of what I'm bringing to every interaction. And you're right, I might not be for everybody. That is okay. Take it or leave it. I guess I just turned 40 this year. I'm like, I don't care anymore. This is who I am. And
say less. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, it's fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think too, it's like, money is hard for me, because money is one of those situations where, like, you're changing someone's life, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. Mm-hmm. How do you find a balance for you in, like, the family dynamic? You talked earlier about, obviously not every marriage or relationship ends, in the most desirable way. How does that impact your role, and how did you get prepared for that? I mean, I've been in crazy places too, but it's like, you can't teach that.
You can't teach
this. Isn't a class. Like, there's no class on how to deliver bad news.
No. I mean, I had an appointment last week, and it's a client that I'm onboarding from a different financial advisor. And I went out to my business partner after the appointment was over and just broke down in tears. I was sobbing. I'm almost going to get emotional now, just because I see when things are done not in that person's best interest, and it just makes me advocate so much for doing it the right way. And I think I've gotten a lot better at having those hard conversations. And I mean, we've helped clients bury family members. We've seen divorce. We've seen remarriage. We've seen birth of children. We've seen, I mean, you name the life transition, I've probably walked at least one person through it. So I think it never gets easier, but you kind of learn to find grace and, again, meet them where they are and help be a resource the best you can. But I feel like it's emotional a lot. I think I care so much that sometimes I have a hard time turning it off, and I take a lot of it home with me. But I care so much for their well-being, and I hate what what gets done. I mean, it's people like that that give our industry a bad rep, you know?
And that's what's so hard is they are people at the end of the day. And I think when you think about athletes and personnel, the person that they become for the general public isn't necessarily the person that you personally know. And so I even struggle and work on it of like having that divide of like, who is that person? And then who are they to someone else? And knowing that you can only protect a version that is accessible to you. Yeah. And it's hard to see. Like I see guys so many times they go broke. And I'm like, how did this happen to you? And how did no one tell you?
I know
that this was coming or it was even possible, because everybody wants to be a yes person. No one wants to be the no person. And the reality is you need about 100 no people to one yes person, because the yes person is a dangerous person.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why, again, as long as you have a unified team with the team of people that are around them, including their spouse or partner or their parents or whoever is that person in their life, as long as you're all communicating for the greater good of that person. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, you cannot force them to take action or be remaining in inaction. There's just nothing we can do. But I sleep at night knowing I gave them the best guidance that I could in that moment and what was right for them. Whether they take it or not, at the end of the day, that's not my responsibility. I can just feel good knowing I did the best I could with what I had.
Right. Oh, Beth, you talked about going to the NFL Combine and stuff like that. So fun. Do you see a lot of women out there? And if you do, like, I think it's so important to support other women because there's far and few in between, you know. What advice would you also give maybe those younger women that women that are at the NFL or Combine and they're looking to have your role one day? What would you tell them to do?
I think the first thing I would tell them to do is, first of all, good on you and then get a girl, because I
love it.
I love seeing women succeed. We do it really well. I mean, some of the best agents I know are women, and then some of the best accountants I know are women. And there is a place for us. I know now it's open, you know, for female coaches and personnel, and that's so great to see. But I think the main thing is really trust your gut and don't have a backup plan, because it gets really hard. You'll hear a lot of no's. You have a lot of pressure and intimidation. You'll get the door closed in your face way more than you'll have them open. So I think the more true and authentic you are in your purpose and your why, the easier it gets, because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of education and time away from home, away from your hobbies, away from your family. There's long travel days, as you both know. And if you don't love it and you don't have conviction, like it's all for nothing.
Well, I think it's hard too, because it's intimidating.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to get intimidated. We talk almost every show about imposter syndrome.
Well, big time.
Have you ever found yourself in an imposter syndrome scenario? And if you have, did you like go down the rabbit hole of it, or did you snap out of it?
I did for probably the first 7 years of my career. I had I'm not good enough. Why would they want to work with me? I'm a young woman. Like, look at all these older men that are, you know, really successful and great at what they do. And they walk in with that confidence that I just wish I had, that innate confidence. And so I was like, I need to get more designations. I need to have more expert knowledge on specifics. And at the end of the day, I think self-talk and the self-limiting beliefs can be our biggest, worst enemy. And so for me, I was really blessed to have a great mentor. Her name's Adina. And she really just told me, trying to remember the exact, I want to do it. I want to say it the right way, because it was really good. It was just bring awareness of what you say to yourself. And if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And that's what I was doing. I was fighting for my limitations. Instead of telling myself why I could, I was telling myself why I couldn't.
So I think it's like self-talk.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like Brooklyn, one of our guests before, she was really big into like manifesting and self-talk and how you communicate to yourself, because it's the energy you give off. And sometimes I find myself giving people the same advice that I need to be giving to myself.
Right.
but I don't know why I don't give it to myself. Like, I'm over here sounding so smart.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That you can go do all of this and be this person, and I'm over here like, wait me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Kate.
know. Like I tell my 9-year-old all the time, I'm like, if you think you can or you think you can't,
Yeah.
you're right. And I'm like, wait, yeah, I think that too. So it is. The last 5 years, I'd say I've really been kind of just wheels are off, let's go. Yeah, I was my own worst enemy.
How much do you travel for your job? Because I heard you just mention you have a child. So how do you manage that? And how, if you want to share, can share like about your little one. Like I have 3 little ones, so it's a daily struggle of fun. But
yeah, I think I'm a mom first, so she's my biggest priority. I am divorced, so I am blessed. Her dad is involved, so I try to book most of my travel or away games if I'm going to a client. Or a conference. It can't always be helped, but if it can, I try to do it on the weekends when she's with her dad. And then there are sacrifices I make in business, so I can be at the choir concert, so I can be the mom she needs, especially when she's in a dual household situation. I think it's important for her to see mommy is successful, mommy's hardworking, but mommy's also here for me when I need her. So I think I can't wait to see when she graduates and goes to college. I'm really excited to see what I can do, and this is all I have to devote myself to. But yeah, I travel all the time, at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. And it's all by choice, but I love it. But yeah, I don't know. It's a balancing act, as you know.
Wow. No, not a question, but I'm going to say, I was telling Kate earlier, I'm not a mom yet, but I think it's such an inspiration. Like seeing women like you guys who are so successful in the sports industry, and you do it while being a mom as well. And I just think that's such a true testament to like who you guys are as women, and it's an inspiration for young women like me who want to become a mom one day. So shout out to you guys.
Great mom.
Oh, thank you.
Kind of figure it out. It's no one gives you a manual, and I think you got to do what's right for you and your child's personality, because all my friends, most of my friends have children, and they all have very different careers, and I just look at how we all manage it. And women are superheroes because we all have very different children and very different personalities, very different requirements in and out of our households, and we managed to do it all. So I love it.
I think that's like one of the things like for women is so important. And I wish more executives and more corporations realize the amount of hats women wear outside of the workplace. And I think that makes us, dare I say, better. Like, I think it makes us more into, someone's coming for me with that comment. No. They said women are better. Like, no, I feel like it gives us a better place to draw from. And we're able to multitask and balance and come at things with a holistic view of what's most important. Because a lot of times it's not just one thing that you're dealing with the client. You're dealing with 4 or 5 layers to that one thing. And at the end of the day, you got to get to a solve. So
for sure,
how are we going to get there and not let this linger on? And one of the questions I had, I've had a client, a couple of them have children. How does that impact your role with them when it is, obviously some of them come from different situations and they have children throughout their careers, or how does that impact you? And how do you have to have those conversations? Like, are you having conversations about children and expenses and lifestyle choices?
Absolutely. Yep. I do life financial planning. So everything is important, and money flows through all things. And in fact, at our NFLPA conference, I think it was my first year, I want to say it was 2017, they had an entire session, and it was an attorney. He was essentially telling you how to help your client through a paternity suit. So, I mean, we see both sides of it. We see men that, have children legitimately, or maybe they are the bio dad, but how do we navigate that? That's very sensitive and tricky. But then also there's a lot of really neat planning opportunities that they could do for their kids. So I really ask questions like, what kind of a parent do you want to be? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Do we want to have generational wealth? What kind of school? Are we doing private school or are we doing public school? What sports do you want to be involved in? Like, what is the lifestyle? I think lifestyle is the biggest differentiator of how you plan, because it's like, okay, what lifestyle do you want your child to have? And then how do we back into that? So, and sometimes they have unique opportunities if they own a business outside of whatever they're doing there's really unique opportunities we can provide for children to get them a Roth IRA at a young age, to, get them additional investments that they wouldn't have access to otherwise.
I think that's what's so fascinating about kids is the way their lifestyle is when they're brought into it isn't necessarily a lifestyle that's sustainable for the length of their life, right? God willing. So, your dad might be the MVP of the league when you're born through 5, and then he might retire and your entire lifestyle is going to change. So how, finding that balance of what isn't a high or a low, but knowing that you have to plan for here to eternity, it's like, okay, we need to stay in the middle and not get high or low. Because I've seen some players who, like Floyd Mayweather is a great example of this. He has different children in different spaces and phases of his life, right? Yeah. And so trying to make sure everybody has what's equal, because his earlier kids probably didn't have what his kids now have. And like, how do you balance the jealousy or the I deserve X because I am this person?
Exactly.
And that's
only has resources. The resources are finite. So yeah, that sounds great. But if we can't deliver on that, then you need to be in the middle, and we do something, we have to compromise, Yeah.
So. Have you ever in your career or of late, we hear all the time about challenges or struggles. You talked about, experiences going into rooms, and you're one of very few women.
Yeah.
And I loved your story earlier about how you walked in there like, look, you're great. You're overqualified. It's not my call. It's going to go somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Did you take that moment and did it change your perspective on the industry for positive or for negative?
I've had a lot of experiences over the years, and I think it's kind of like we were saying earlier, where it evolves, we learn from our mistakes, or we learn from trauma. So I remember it was one of the years, it was also at a combine, and he was a newer head coach, and he was in his second season as head coach, and I was having lunch with a personnel guy from a different team, but they knew each other because, the league is a very small place. Right. So anyway, he walked over to us and was saying hi to his friend, and then he kind of looked at me and he's like, "Oh, who are you and what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a financial advisor. I work with, coaches and professional athletes." And he goes, "Oh, wow, this place is crawling with people like you." And it kind of took me aback for a minute, because you're basically likening me to a parasite with ill intentions that's just cruising around here trying to be slimy. But it also told me that's a lot more reflective of your experience with someone who does what I do than it is about me. And I wasn't confident enough in that moment to have a good clap back where I could be like, well, actually. So I just said, "Great meeting you, man." And that was it.
Walking away.
So it was just, how do I differentiate? If I don't want to be compared to other financial advisors, I need to look, act, and sound different. So that just was a good motivator for me to not be like my competition.
But had that moment not happened, you might not have made that decision for yourself and how you wanted to show up. And literally, Megan and I say all the time, people have to be better. Yeah. You just have to be better. You can't be just saying dumb shit all the time. Stop it.
Does not remember saying it. And the funniest thing is, I have bumped into him at a couple other things. Like, his brother was on a team that played in the Super Bowl, and so I was at a Super Bowl after party, and he was there, and I was plugged in. I've bumped into him so many times since that. I'm sure he has no recollection of saying it. But it's kind of like, I'm not going anywhere, man.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I would have totally been that petty person that's gone up and been like, "Hey, am I still the same?" Actually, no, I've changed, grown, and evolved, and it looks like you're still the same.
I know. That's the ultimate thought, right?
Right.
Well, and that's honestly, it's weird because sometimes I think people can't help themselves, and I think people just in general are awkward when they meet a woman in an executive, authoritative, or a setting that is intimidating, and their first instinct is, let me see if I can cut her down.
Absolutely.
Instead of raise her up. And it pisses me off because it's unnecessary. I'm not coming in there to do anything other than my job and be really great at it. You're putting the restrictions on me instead of helping me change the narrative around women in sports.
Exactly. They try to trap you into that stereotype or get you overly emotional. So like, see, I told you she would pop off like that, right?
Yep.
So I think the more we can just remain calm and about, again, success is the ultimate flex. So just be yourself, be authentically yourself, and, be nice to everybody. You never know. Don't burn any bridges, right? Because, who knows? He might be a client someday.
Even if you want to.
I'm going to a game with you, Beth.
Yes.
And I want you to introduce me as an NBA agent just so I can look him in his face and be like, I probably am not like everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely not.
Bad. Shame on you, man. Shame on you. Yeah. Shame on you. Well, how do you challenge yourself with your pushing that forward with, obviously your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like you're able to change that narrative or want to change that narrative?
I think it just starts with being different and just not being just about the numbers. Again, life-centered, being in their corner and letting them know, I'm going to be here long after your playing days or your coaching days are over. I'm going to hopefully help you retire one day and then, help your kids get started when they are doing their careers. So it's just really being as much of a resource as I can. And again, being a giver, putting them in front of the right people, making the right connections, just making yourself indispensable. And again, I think it's so important. Do what you say you're going to do. Just be that reliable person in their life. And not everyone appreciates it. And sometimes you get caught up and someone will promise them a better return. I will never compete on cost or performance, but there's going to be another guy down the street that promises you 12% every year, no matter what. And he can do it for free. And then they're going to go to him. And I wish you well. And, wait till reality hits.
Right.
I think the more we can just invest in them, what they want, what's best for them. And I tell people this all the time. I want what's best for you. And that might not be me, but I truly ultimately want what's best for you and your future. And so I think if you really operate from that genuine, authentic place, it resonates because it's not common. Sadly, it's not common.
Right.
No.
I love that. And Beth, I don't know if we ever touched on this, but what ultimately brought you to want to be working in sports? Because you were like doing stuff at Colorado, you're at UCLA, like you're on the coaching staff. Like that's so cool. Like what made you want to even get into this?
So I think just growing up around the sport, I have a huge sports family. My parents love sports. I have one brother, diehard sports fan. I mean, he's super into baseball and basketball and football. He's into all the things. And we were just a big sports family. So I was blessed to get to know the X's and O's at a young age. And then I was also blessed with being on staff with really supportive guys that were like father figures and mentors or big brothers to me that really, they opened a lot of doors for me. So when I came into this industry, and it took me a long time to be like, why am I not leveraging both communities? Like, why am I not applying this technical knowledge to benefit this industry? That I think was such a light bulb moment for me, but it was those people that are now all pretty much in the NFL or head coaches in college. I mean, they welcomed me with open arms, and I think it was because when I was working for them, I was very reliable. I did things accurately. I would get there early. I would stay late. I was their go-to. They learned they could trust me to do it well. And so I think even though they maybe didn't have experience with me, some did, but maybe they didn't have experience with me as their wealth manager, but they knew my work ethic. So they were like, oh, let me introduce you here. They opened a lot of doors for me. So I was very blessed to have very supportive male role models. And I know that's not always the case with women in sports. I have a very rare, I'm very blessed with who I knew.
I love that. I love that. Because I feel like, sometimes there are males who will bring you down, like the man we discussed earlier. And there are also men that elevate women. And I love to celebrate those men as well and appreciate them. So love to hear
But
that.
I think part of it's allowing them to be a part of your success, right? Because the fear of you becoming better than someone oftentimes is what hinders them from championing and supporting you. And I think that's like one thing of like I love about Her Table and why we have Her Table is because I want women to be able to feel support and love and empowerment through other women, whether that's you saying like, oh my gosh, I went through that. I'm not the only one. Like, oh my God, okay, I feel better now. I'm not just being singled out, but ultimately too, to be able to be like, wow, that's inspiring. Wow, that's different. Wow, that's a different way to think about it. How, I want you to, if you can dig deep here, what's a client success story that you're most proud of? And I know it's gonna be hard and you don't have to name the client, but like, what's a moment where someone had an impactful moment for themselves that made you feel proud?
Oh, I have so many. I think I have one for each client.
No.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a really hard one. And you know what's most exciting is when I look 5 and 10 years down the road, I am so excited for what's to come for them. There are such big goals on the table, and they're so multifaceted and talented and smart and entrepreneurial. I am so excited to see what these young men and women are about to do. I mean, they're going to change the world. And the fact that I get to have a very small part in helping them be held accountable to maintain or achieve that goal is the most humbling, fulfilling. Gosh, it's so cool.
It's why you do what you do, right? And it's because you get to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself and bigger than them. And, you know, you miss a lot. Like as a mom, you miss a lot. You're going to miss stuff. It's going to happen, but you're able to do it with people that appreciate and respect and value you, which is what I think is so important, especially in this industry. There's so much money thrown around. A lot of people can do the same job. It's just a matter of, can you develop and cultivate a human being to be better through your role in their story?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too, they just need someone to tell them they could do it and, you know, get them out of their own way, kind of how we had to get out of our own way, get them out of their own way. I had a client last season, his goal was to build up a 6-figure savings account to help him budget for the off season and to just have that comfort level of knowing, okay, regardless of what my investments do, of what my paycheck's going to look like, I've got this nest egg. And he did it in 1 season, and it took a lot of hard work. It was a lot of sacrifice, but he did that. I mean, it was a little hand-holding, but he ultimately had to have the self-discipline to not be buying a bottle of Camus at every meal and to not be...
I love Camus though.
You want to though, because they feel like I have it and I want to flash it and do it, and I want to be what I see on TV, which is like these shows that are just this misrepresentation of like what's real.
Yeah.
And it's real, but it's not forever.
It's not
You can't live like that forever.
You want to live like a king now or a prince forever, because you can't do both.
Love it.
Exactly. And I think I personally feel like there's a responsibility on these athletes and these coaches and these people to educate the average person that isn't going to have their path and story about financial education and success, because everyone's definition of success is so different, going to change and it's going to be different, right? But at the same time, everybody needs to learn how to pay taxes and balance checkbooks, and what's the difference between a credit card and a debit card, and how do I balance, you know what I mean? How do I balance and budget? I think there's this misconception that these guys, and some of them might not have this, but I've seen the most successful ones actually are on a budget. Like they don't get, like you said earlier, they don't get their $1 million check on the 15th. They get a set amount that they get to live and draw from, so they have a responsible lifestyle. I heard Shaq talk one time, and he said he spent $1 million in a day.
Oh my gosh. How?
And that sounds hard to do.
Yeah.
But he explained it as like, I bought my dad a new Mercedes because I wanted to like do something nice for him. Took it home, and his mom was like, where the hell is mine? Like, what? And then, so he's like, well, shit, I got to buy my mom one. So then he went back to the dealership to buy his mom one. And then on the way home from the dealership, he stopped off and bought a watch for himself. Like, click through to $1 million in a day. And they just swipe. So they have no account. It's not like you're putting the cash on the table. I think that might feel a little different. But when you're just swiping a card, it's Beth's responsibility, not mine. Beth has to see the balance, not me.
I don't have to worry about it.
Beth's over there having a heart attack, like, oh my God, swipe.
So crazy. Well, and then I'm sure you experience this a lot with your younger clientele. They don't have credit. So just even getting them to build credit and build it responsibly, like pay it off every month, charge a tank of gas and a, grocery run and pay it off. But building credit, a lot of these guys can't even finance things when they first get that paycheck because they don't have credit history.
Or something as simple as like getting a phone. Like everything requires a credit check. So if you want to go get a new phone at AT&T, it's going to be you know what I mean? But I also think the hard part is sometimes they don't come from a financially educated home.
That's
So
the
their
thing.
parents don't even understand what it is. And then, mom wants to get a new house or a new car, but she can't get it because her credit number is so bad. You have all the money in the bank, but the credit. So it's that education side. And I think the NFL's done a great job at it. I think the NBA's getting there. But I just even think collegiately, like these guys with NIL money.
Yeah.
You get a check, you got to pay taxes. Like it scares me. The people
They're like, oh, this is a full check. It's like,
Yeah.
Totally. And then I get scared because I'm like, you don't have anybody telling you that? Like you get a free car. Yeah, sure. There are costs that come associated with that. This is not all free, but it sounds good, but then they can't maintain it. And then it's that embarrassment factor of like, I didn't do it right. And the mental health comes into it.
There need to be laws and regulations around. I feel like we just need in middle school and high school more than geometry. I definitely need a book and know the basics of,
I'm with you. Yeah, the whole like, long division. No one does that.
Yeah,
just get a calculator.
Choose my phone.
No one does that. It's an auto sum button on my PowerPoint on my Excel sheet. It's the auto sum button. But I think it's, even too, for these young kids that want to be professionals to understand that they still live within their means as well. And that's what they're encouraged to do. Because I think some of these younger men, women, children want to like live a lifestyle they see, but they don't understand that that is coming at a cost, both financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. How do you, from an NFL perspective, and Megan, I want you to chime in too about how do you factor in the NFL CTE into these life insurance policies, these health insurance policies that, are ultimately setting them up for success, but protecting their families on the other side?
Yeah, and the league has done such a good job, the Players Association, with the neurocognitive disability coverage. Now we have come such a long way with those benefits. But then also I have some great resources that do private risk, so they can help build out additional protection that we can't necessarily write for the average person, because they're underwritten so different than, your average 30-year-old client who's just doing a normal job, not one that's so physical. So they even have different underwriting requirements. So it's a whole different ballgame. So kudos to the Players Association and to the league for really stepping up the coverage and the benefits for these young men.
Love that. I guess my last question, making it fun just because Kate and I always ask this and you kind of talked about shoes, but I think I know what direction you're going to go in, but I would love to just hear it. Are you
Megan, I tried this earlier and I thought I was confident. So
I know, but
I got shot
I
down.
was confident in our last guest response. So I'm very confident in this one. Okay. Are you a sneakers or a stilettos girl?
I am both. I have two lanes. Have you seen that meme? And it's like one heel and then the dunk, and it's like I am this or that.
Yep,
That is so me. But so I used to design shoes in another life. Actually,
Whoa!
Like my Devil Wears Prada moment. It was about a year of my
Say
life.
less.
Wait, what?
Exciting.
What?
Come on, I need to know.
Designing shoes. So I have all the Jimmy shoes, the Gucci's, the Louis. I've got all the ladies in the lineup. But to a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game, I am absolutely rocking dunks or sneaks. I'm not trying to be that girl in the heels hobbling around. Like, I'm not. No.
I'm just losing at life because no one ever picks heels. I'm literally, thanks, Beth, crushing my dream today. You can check that off your list of fun.
Sorry.
If I don't have to walk far, then let's go. But if I'm making the rounds, it's forget it.
It's I always say whatever you feel you're best in is how I want you to show up, and whatever that is. And so Megan and I always joke because we're constantly opposites. Like literally, I'll wear pink, she'll wear blue, or she'll wear sneakers and I'll wear heels, or I'll wear. It's insane, but it's always interesting to ask that question because I think so many times people expect something and that's something different. And so, did you think you were gonna win, Megan?
Yeah. I thought you were going to be straight up sneakers.
We need a new question. I'm over this. I'm dropping the stilettos or sneakers. It's banned. It's not allowed to be asked anymore.
That's so funny.
We're going to have to find a new happy medium because I'm on my own island over here. Megan has this whole like cruise ship of people.
I do.
I'm just in a dinghy by myself, like waiting on life to come by.
Why does it look so sensational in that dinghy? I mean, shooting is fire.
in my heels. I'm like, don't touch it because it might pop in again. So it's just
Love it though.
What's that move? Well, I'm so glad we got to share your story today. It's inspiring to watch and hear just another woman that's in a space that isn't what normally people would expect, but you're thriving in it and you're doing it from a place of just love, compassion, joy, and just ultimate like giving. Like you said earlier, like you just want to give to every situation. And I love the energy. I love what that does for me as a person to feel like I need to be more of that. Because there's such a space for us all at a table, but even more importantly, for amazing women like you that are just you're taking everything that's thrown at you and just you're making, what is that saying? You're making lemonade with lemons. Like whatever it is, we're going to come out the other side. So I'll bring the tequila to your lemonade stand.
Yes, you will. And I need to have a fangirl moment because I am so grateful to the two of you for having this platform. Do you know what I would have done to have this podcast 20 years ago? How much this could have impacted my future and my confidence, and just to see that there's other women out there doing the same thing and just have a tribe. Like I am just so grateful to the two of you for doing this. So thank you.
You're gonna make me cry, Beth. That makes me emotional. It's funny. I always try and figure out why. When they asked us to do this show, it's like, oh, one more thing, you know what I mean, to add to the plate. But really, what it's given me and filled my cup with is celebrating women like you and giving you a platform to change for the next you. Right? It's not about me. It's for the next me. Because I'm done, but it's at the same time, like there's other women that want to be in sports and don't know how or when or that it's challenging and it's hard and people are gonna say dumb shit to you and you just have to
just embrace the journey, you know. But yeah, I'm just so grateful to the two of you for doing this.
Oh, and thank you.
Gosh, we needed this.
Oh, listen, and we're gonna keep doing it. So who knows what's next? And I love that we got to share your story.
Yes.
I'll be on my dinghy by myself, ladies and gentlemen. So if anyone want to join my dinghy, it's fine. Our next guest, I'm going to be like, say stilettos, please. I don't want that one on tonight. No, but keep being an amazing mom.
You too.
Keep doing great things. And honestly, thank you for being one of the people that continue to inspire young men and women and keep them on the right path for the greater good. You are in such an impactful role, and I don't think you realize how much of an impact you have on lives that you're entertaining right now, but the lives beyond that and the families you're impacting and changing. It's special. So special. Okay, stay warm in Denver.
Okay, Kate, Beth was an amazing guest. I feel like I am so much more educated on the financial aspect that goes into players and coaches' lifestyles, or even my own. Like I even feel like I need to be better about budgeting and kind of knowing and having that discipline going forward. What did you think?
I mean, honestly, I felt like I have a lot of work to do and stuff to need to learn and grow on in the financial space. But it was really awesome hearing her talk about how she really thrives in a space that allows her to be dynamic. And she is not just one thing to one person. She is many things to many people.
Right.
And not losing who she is based upon who she's working with was like mind blowing.
So good. And I think it's so special because it's so hard to have those tough conversations with, you know, those athletes or those coaches that you're working with. You're having those tough conversations, and it's like being able to like balance that and even break tough news or exciting news. It's just a true testament to who she is, kind of her skills and her communication background and really talking with these young athletes and educating them.
I think she's definitely taken like a really amazing hybrid approach, right? Like getting her degree in communications, and now she works in finance. It was weird and exciting for me to hear that like she's not just a numbers person. Like she is a thoughtful planning person. Right. She wants to set them up for success. And she said one of the things that she said that really resonated with me was when she was talking about being able to bring other people of expertise to the table to benefit her client. Not because she needed to gain something from it, but because she wanted to be able to have her client succeed in whatever that looks like. And she said exposure breeds expansion. So she's asking her clients to grow from a financial space, but also from like a mental health, wellness, and overall education space. So I thought she was just going to be like, hey, this is the numbers. I watch what they're spending. We need to keep our budget down. I'm sure she has a lot of those conversations.
Yeah.
But it was more or less of like her saying, hey, like we need to be really thoughtful and strategic, and intentional is the word that comes to mind. When I look at the work she does, everything's intentional. And it's really cool to see that much thought goes into how people spend and why they spend.
Yeah. And I think it was cool that she mentioned like we're all people first, and then your job or your role is second. And also really cool too, I didn't know that she had a daughter. And so I just think that is so special that she can, I just have so much respect for, women like you guys, and you're able to balance that work life and family life. So she was great.
Well, I think it's also one thing too for her that just when I think about it is like everybody, she said money flows through everything. So it's interesting when you think about her job is it's not just about how much they're spending or how much they're saving. It's the tax implications. It's the LLCs. How are you telling your family?
Yeah.
We're not paying for this, or this is beyond our budget. Or, she gave the example of like, I paid your AAU fees when you were younger and now you owe me.
Right.
She kind of carries a lot, I feel like, for her clients. And I think that's why she's so good at what she does and why she's so inspiring to them, because she's not afraid to wear that hat to protect them.
Yeah. And you can tell
she cares. Financial world doesn't have that rap.
Yeah. No, and you can tell she really cares about her clients and their success in their life. So yeah, really special.
It was awesome. I feel like we should take a master class from her though. You and I might need to take a little master class on what to do next as we grow her table. I think we might have to pick her brain a little bit.
For sure.
But we are so happy you guys were here with us again this week. I loved sharing Beth's story. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share this episode so we can continue to celebrate and elevate women in sports. That's it for us. Thanks so much for joining Her Table.